Hello, my name is Rachel, and this is my January wrap-up. So, I managed to read 11 books in the month of January, which makes me pretty happy. My kind of internal goal that I never really wrote down was to read between 10 and 12 books every month, so I'm pretty excited. I was right there in the wheelhouse. A lot of these, though, were graphic novel, sequential art type books, though, so I'm hoping in February to read more actual books, word books. I don't know what to call it. Non-sequential art books. Let's go with that. So first up was a graphic novel, kind of. It's called Thornhill by Pam Smye. I'd heard really good things about this, and I will say that I wasn't a huge fan. I liked it. It gave you like this feeling of like, oh my gosh, something's coming. Like you had this really ominous feeling, very suspenseful. I absolutely hated the way it ended though. So I ended up giving it a 3 out of 5, kind of like halfway in the middle. I love the first part. I hate the end part, so we'll give it a 3 out of 5. I really hated the ending. But let me tell you a little bit about it. It's following the story of two girls, and it switches every chapter. One chapter, or rather the even chapters, focus on the girl from the past who used to live in the orphanage that is now run down and abandoned next door to the current girl. And we get all this information in text via a diary that's been found. In the odd chapters, we have a sequential art situation going with the current girl who has found the diary and is actually currently living next to the abandoned building. And both of them have very kind of sad lives. It's very sad currents all throughout this book, and again, I absolutely hated the ending. So there's that. A lot of people really like this though, so please don't let my review scare you off. Give it a try, see what you think. I'd love to hear what you have to say once you've read it, but for me, yeah, 3 out of 5. Next up, I read All the Dirty Parts by Daniel Handler. This is aka Lemony Snicket, of course, but this book was not very Lemony Snickety. I'm not really sure what I was expecting, but this wasn't it. I heard good reviews about this, and it was supposed to be just kind of a take on the idea that men think about sex all the time, and that was definitely brought across in this book. It made me a little uncomfortable to read. That could have been the whole point. I don't know. Maybe I just didn't get it. I will guarantee you that this book was not written for me. I'm not the target audience, so I don't know. I'm sure other people really liked it, but I did not. I gave it a 2 out of 5. I liked like the general idea, but I just thought it could be so much better. I'll just leave it at that. Next up, I read Middle School is Worse Than Meatloaf by Jennifer Holm. I just kind of stumbled upon this in the middle school library that I work with. We were going through and genreifying, and I was trying to pull out any books that weren't actually fiction books. And this one is, I guess you would just call it sequential art. It's almost like a scrapbook of this girl's life. And it is amazing how much of a story you can get out of just little trinkets from her day. Just to give you an example, like at one point they're having dinner at a Chinese restaurant, and you can figure all that out not through words, but just the fact that they're sitting there. There's like kind of a menu in the corner and like a fortune cookie at the bottom, and then she's also got like a letter or a grade card or something, so you can tell what they're talking about at dinner. You can tell where they're eating dinner, and a lot of the stories are told through like letters and notes. Her mom leaves her a lot of post-it notes throughout the book. Her brother draws a lot of comics about things that they do together. I was just amazed at how much they could convey with kind of a scrapbook style setup, and it was really good. I liked this one. It felt really real for a middle school story. I really liked it, and I ended up putting it in the graphic novel section. I thought it would do well there, but I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. Next up was Bad Guys episode 5. I believe this one was called Intergalactic Gas. These are by Aaron Blabey. maybe? I don't know. I love these books. I've raved about them before, and I'll rave about them again. They're little comic-style graphic novel books for elementary level, and they're hilarious. They follow the bad guys, which are the bad guys from, like, fairy tales or from the world, basically. Animals that seem dangerous. So the main character is the wolf, aka like the big bad wolf, and they even have little rap sheets in the first book. There's also a shark, a snake, a piranha, a tarantula, and I feel like I'm forgetting one. But they all work together to try to be good guys, and things usually go wrong. And they're adorable. I love them. And it reminds me a lot of like Shrek, to where it's like multi-layered. Like adults will like it too. But it's not anything like super risky. Like the last one, Intergalactic Gas. The piranha eats too many tacos, too many burritos, and gets gas, and it's a plot. So there's fart jokes. That's about as risque as it gets. But these are amazing. I love them. I will keep reading them. I gave this one a 4 out of 5 stars. Next, I read the sequel to Middle School is Worse Than Meatloaf, and this one was called 8th Grade is Making Me Sick by Jennifer Holm. Same style, like a scrapbook setup. I will say this one got a little bit darker. There were some serious issues going on in the family, as well as with our main character, who ends up being diagnosed with kind of an intestinal disorder. This one was a lot darker than the first one, I will say, and it wasn't as fun. I think it could be helpful for students to read something like this, where there is a lot of drama going on that maybe they can relate to, but it wasn't as fun to read. I gave this one 3 out of 5 stars. Next up, I read Boulevard, whatever you want to call it, by Sean Rubin. This is a children's book, kind of like a picture book, a storybook. And what drew me in was that it was super thick for a children's book. And it's supposed to be about this girl who sees, I keep wanting to say a dragon, it's not a dragon, a dinosaur. She sees this dinosaur all through the city, but nobody else sees them. And I love how they do the pictures. The pictures are amazing. That was the saving grace of this book, all the illustrations. The child is looking, and you can always see like a little part of the dinosaur. I keep wanting to call it a dragon. You always see a little part of the dinosaur, like you can see his tail sticking out, or like one of the ridges on his back or something, but he's never really super obvious. And I love that. I think this would have done really well just as a plain picture book with no words. But I just didn't. I wasn't crazy about it. I just wasn't crazy about this one at all. I felt like it was there just wasn't much happening, and I wasn't that excited about it. But the artwork was really good, and I enjoyed that, so I gave it 2 out of 5 stars. Next up, I read Braving the Wilderness by Brené Brown. Obviously, this is not action-packed because it is more of a social science book, but we get to hear a lot about her research on true belonging and how you kind of have to stand on your own sometimes to find where you really fit in. And I like the idea of just being brave and willing to stand up for what you need to at this point in our society. This is a really good message. I think this gave me a lot to think about, and I enjoyed reading it. I would recommend it to other people. I think this was even Reese Witherspoon's book club pick. But again, it's nothing like super groundbreaking. It's nothing that's going to just be super exhilarating for you, but it is a worthwhile read. I gave it 3 out of 5 stars. Along the same lines, I read Present Over Perfect by Shauna Nyquist this month. I actually listened to it rather, on the treadmill during a readathon. And again, it's nothing groundbreaking, it's nothing new really, but the way it's presented really gives you a lot to think about. The idea behind this book is that instead of working so hard to try to make everything seem perfect, we should do our best to prepare for things and then just enjoy life, be present in the moment, and enjoy what we've got. And I really like that idea. I thought the writing in this one was a little all over the place. I think because it's almost like little vignettes that she told all of her information through, and it was a lot of information based on her personal experience. I felt like it could have been more linear than what it was presented as. It was a little confusing sometimes and a little repetitive at sometimes. But overall, the information was pretty interesting and very thought-provoking. This could be good for a book club book. But I gave it a 3 out of 5 stars, and I enjoyed giving it a read. Next up, I read Warcross by Marie Lu. I read this for our high school book club, and I read this in one evening for the 24 and 48 hour readathon, I think, and I enjoyed reading it. I enjoyed the experience of reading it, but again, this is nothing really new, and actually it was kind of predictable. I saw most of the things coming from a mile away. So I mean, if you're wanting something groundbreaking, this is not it for you. But if you're just wanting to be entertained for a little while, then this is the one. I did like the fact that it's a female author writing about a female protagonist in this kind of sci-fi hacking virtual reality world. I liked that. And I will definitely continue reading the series. But it again, nothing groundbreaking. I gave it, I think we're going to go 4 out of 5 after thinking about it a little bit and after talking about it in book club. I would give it a 4 out of 5. If you'd like more details, like a more thorough review of this book of Warcross, let me know down in the comments and I will work on that. I actually did a lot of notes for the book club that we did, and I just never made the video. So if you'd like that, let me know down below and I'd be happy to make that video. And lastly for the month, I read A Wrinkle in Time by Madeleine L'Engle. I actually read this when I was in like 6th grade, and from what I remember, I loved it. So I wanted to reread it again before the movie comes out because the movie looks amazing. But I picked it up and it's not what I remember. I'm glad I reread it because I did not remember anything apparently. I mean, I knew the general storyline of these 3 kids venturing out into basically time space travel to find the father, and yeah, that's the basic plot. I felt like they had to look a lot longer than what they really did, and I don't know, I found the characters to be not very, I mean, they're just not, I wasn't that excited about any of the characters, let's just put it that way. I just wasn't that excited. I remember it being better than what it was. That's all I can say. Does that happen to you when you go back and reread a book that you thought you loved? It's just not as exciting. Overall, though, I think this book, especially for the time, was phenomenal. I think I just had way too high of expectations from what I remembered and apparently misremembered. So I'm going to give this one a 3 out of 5 stars because I think the story was good. I think I just came in way overshooting it with my expectations, but I'm still super excited for the movie. Originally, I planned to try to read the whole series because I'd only read A Wrinkle in Time, and there's actually like 4 other books, but I think I'm gonna pass on that at this point. Unless there's more movies, even then I might just watch the movies. Shh, don't tell. But yeah, there you go. So those are my 11 books that I managed to read in January, and I'm, again, pretty excited about it. I had a lot of, like, graphic novels, though, and really short books, so I'm hoping to branch out and read a little bit more this month, and I'm super excited to get into a teen reading challenge with the local librarians here in the area. It's for February and March, so I'm hoping that I can kind of stave off a little bit of a reading slump that I feel coming on, because while I read 11 books this month, none of them were outstanding, and it's kind of bumming me out. So I'm hoping I can get some super awesome books going in February when I start jumping into these new teen reads, and yeah. So stay tuned for a awesome February wrap up. It's gonna happen. So again, let me know down in the comments below if you'd like to hear more about Warcross. I took a lot of notes and I could do that video if you're interested. If not, then we'll just move on and maybe pick another book. So let me know, and thank you so much for watching. I will see you again in another video soon. Bye for now.